Welcome to Epilogue Podcast, the show where we discuss some stuff that happened on a different show ages ago which nobody really cares about anymore.
Hello, I'm Portponky.
And I'm LeBloc.
Today we're discussing Deep Space Nine, Season 5, Episode 4, Nor the Battle to the Strong. Jake gets a taste of ground warfare and finds out that he is a coward.
Not a great way to find out you're a coward.
No, not really. He could have found that out in the holodeck.
Yeah. If you told me early on that Jake would be in some great episodes, I would have taken it as a joke.
Well, yes, this is the lethal combination, Bashir and Jake. In the first season, they're probably the two worst characters. Maybe Nog as well. But here we go again on the Jake break, and compared to the Visitor, I don't think it's as strong as that, but they're definitely able to repeat the same level of quality as we've seen in previous episodes.
It's definitely not as good as The Visitor, but this episode holds its own. It's a solid effort.
Yeah, it doesn't stick out like a sore thumb at all. It's right in there, getting messy with the other episodes. Getting messy with all the people getting blown to bits.
Blood everywhere. Some guy holding onto his guts. Self-inflicted wounds.
The people that Jake actually talked to seem to have invisible wounds. The guy in the little dugout bit who was dying and complaining about his guts spilling out didn't actually seem that injured.
He looked a bit roughed up, and that's it.
But then the guys that were carting around in the hospital were just splatting blood all over him. So I guess the rule of the episode is talk to Jake, and your injuries will appear visually less serious.
I'm not sure that's what they want us to take away from this episode.
It might be like that because they don't want him to get into a protracted conversation with someone who's violently bleeding everywhere, because then the episode will have a much higher rating.
We can only have flashes of gore.
Well, it gave the impression that things were pretty serious.
It did, and it made me realize Jake is the only character on DS9 that can lose his innocence, because everyone else has been hardened by terrible horrors, and he's the fresh one. So seeing a pile of dead bodies is going to affect him more than, say, Worf, who would look at that and say, "Oh, is it Tuesday? What is this?
I cannot eat all this.
This is far too much for one sitting."
Jake's not the only one. What about Nog?
He's not on DS9 anymore, though. That's why I worded it as I did.
Well, he's off in the academy.
And
wait, there's another character you've completely overlooked.
No, I think I know what you're about to say. I do not want to see Molly facing a pile of dead bodies.
Yeah, Molly O'Brien.
Although she could probably handle it, given she has O'Brien blood.
No, he can't handle these things. He just survives them.
Yeah, that's right. She would look at it and say, "Of course, this is my lot in life." I kind of want a world-weary Molly episode. No, I don't.
Bringing it back to the Jakester, what did you think of his acting in this one? It's kind of the first episode where Cyril Lofton has taken the lead. The Visitor was about Jake, but he was portrayed by Tony Todd in that one for the majority of the episode.
It hangs on him here. I think he handles it well. We start off with a bright-eyed, eager Jake, and then he slides into unspeakable things, and we see the change in him, and he carries himself differently. I enjoyed watching him here.
I didn't think he was superb. Oh, he was pretty good. You're right. I think what I didn't like that much was the voiceover. He maybe doesn't have the gravitas to do a sort of deep moving voiceover. I don't know if it's just because he's young or I don't know. He just
I think it is the age, and I think you're hitting on something there. It doesn't quite work. I would attribute it to age.
I may be being very fussy because I love things with told in flashback voiceover, narrated stuff.
It's also tough because he's surrounded by really great actors who can carry an episode like this, and we have seen them all on their own. So when it comes to his turn, we've already seen really top-notch stuff.
For sure. He's kind of grown up making this show, and now he's a real boy. He's 18, leading the episodes.
All of the episodes will be Jake-centric from now on.
That wouldn't be terrible. Well, considering the quality of this one and The Visitor, he was in, what was that one? The Muse. That wasn't very good at all.
Oh, yeah.
He was kind of the B plot, kind of. But I wouldn't blame Sir Clofton for that episode being bad. So I could handle a bit more Jake.
It would be great if he appears in more episodes.
Well, he will. I mean, okay.
He just disappears.
They don't mention him again. That would be creepy.
There were things about this episode that bothered me, though.
Oh,
And
go on.
one of them... So there was part of his acting that I didn't like, but I think it had more to do with the story or how it was presented. So when the shelling starts, I didn't understand why he went the other way. It wasn't clear to me why he couldn't continue going forward. And I think it's how the shelling was represented. It looked pretty haphazard and random. I don't see why you'd be more safe going the other way than forward where Bashir was. And then he seemed confused with himself, why he ran. Why did I run? Maybe there was a reason. So it's hard to act that when you don't even have a clear motivation. They kind of talk about it later how, yeah, oh, I'm just a coward and I wanted to run to safety. But it wasn't clear that that would be safe to go that way. So that bothered me.
Okay, so Bashir runs ahead to some rocks for cover, and Jake is slow and rubbish because he's gone all wobbly legged, and then the shelling is between him and Bashir, and then Bashir gets almost hit by one and he's flailing around on the ground, and Jake says, "Well, I'm done with this, bye." But I agree, to an extent, that scene kind of failed to capture the fear and adrenaline that such a situation would create. It kind of just looked like they were having trouble with firecrackers.
Yeah.
Like, pretty good firecrackers, but still, it could have done with, I don't know, like clods of dirt flying around hitting them and stuff, like proper debris, to make the explosions seem like they would actually blow their bodies into tiny chunks.
Instead of a minor inconvenience where you get dust in your eye. So there was that, and then also Jake, when they first arrive, Jake shouldn't be bumbling around in an intensive care area.
Cave.
I understand. Intensive cave care.
It's the care cave.
Okay, intensive care cave. So I understand why they did that. They want him to witness all of this and realize how bad it is. But Bashir should have told him, hey, go over there, get out of the way, or something. But I guess he had blinders on. He wanted to get to the people as quickly as possible. But he shouldn't have been in there.
Well, he should have landed the runabout, got out, programming it to go fly to like 50 kilometers away or something. And just tell him to lie low, get him the hell out of there. Not hang around in the middle of surgery.
That reminds me that Bashir shouldn't have ever brought him along anyway, without permission. He decides to do it and then tells Cisco after the fact. He should get permission first, I would think.
Well, he's a doctor. You can't just like phone up DS9 and leave a message saying, "Oh, hundreds are dying. Can I take one civilian to a possible war zone?"
That's fair. But it's the boss's son.
Yeah, but Bashir can handle it. What can't he do?
Be relatable to people who aren't involved in his field.
Yes.
I love that. If they do it too often, I'll probably get annoyed, but I love seeing Bashir continue not to understand that he has to cater to his audience and he can't just talk as he always does.
That was great use of the voiceover when Bashir is explaining stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Jake's just drifting off, and then he turns around and says, "Oh, yeah, I kind of get it." I think pretty much anyone can relate to that situation. I like that Jake fired the phaser all over the place.
Yes, I would have been annoyed if he were A, crack shot, or B, landed a miracle shot where it bounces off a pan and then hits them straight in the heart. 2-for-1 shot or something ridiculous.
That would have been pretty good. They just never use phasers like that. They're always aiming them, but it's not like a gun where you run out of bullets. Well, I mean, it must run out of shots at some point, but it's got loads compared to a gun.
Right.
If you never see the characters just spam fire. No, they take one shot and then wait for the enemies to shoot, and then they shoot back. But no, not for Jake. He was just slamming that trigger. He didn't care what he hit. He just went for it.
And he almost killed himself. That's why they tell you not to spam lasers. You might cause a cave-in.
When you frame it like that, I guess it wasn't a great idea.
He lucked out. He was an accidental hero.
The accidental hero stuff, I kind of wish they'd played that up a bit more.
I thought that's where they were going, and I wanted them to go there, because how could Jake feel good about being called a hero? He didn't decide, oh, if I cause a cave-in, that will slow them down. He spammed the laser and then lucked into a situation.
I don't know if they just hit upon that at the end. It would have been nice if he'd been getting the praise of everyone rather than just Bashir a little bit and Cisco. Because that heightens how terrible he feels.
Speaking of feeling terrible, Dax was terrible at trying to make Cisco feel better.
Oh yes, that's an awkward scene.
She tells him, I know what it's like to worry about a child, which is super presumptuous. You don't know what it's like to be Cisco and to be worried about Jake. And then that turns the spotlight on her. She's, oh, enough about your problems. Let me tell you about this story. That's all about me. And I can understand that she's trying to distract him, but that's a terrible way to go at it.
Yeah, you don't distract someone by assuming their identity.
Well, she's had several identities.
I guess, but stop taking other people's. Cisco's
She
worried
wants more.
for his kids. Oh, you think you're worried for your kid? Well, my kid was so sick.
And that was hundreds of years ago, so I've been thinking about it forever. You just started worrying about Jake.
Oh dear. She could have told any one of hundreds of stories. And then they go to tweak the showers and replicators.
That annoyed me so much. It emphasizes that Dax has nothing to do, that she's able to do fake work with her time because she has nothing important to do.
Cisco just spent 3 hours fixing it, and Dax is going to just go in there and say, yep.
Let me
It's fixed.
pretend to double check this meaningless task.
Well, then she'd essentially be hiding in the cupboard. She'd be like, okay, I probably got a few hours in here.
If I had duties to shirk, I would be shirking them.
Maybe she's just living her life day to day, desperately hoping that no one finds out she has no talents and no job. But what she doesn't realize is everyone already knows that.
Yeah, Dax, you were fired ages ago. We all know. She hangs around out of habit.
What can you expect from Dax, though? It's not her fault that the writers give her no motivation or driving force, and her character is just floating around in the wind.
It sounds terrible when you reduce it to that.
Well, that kind of is the problem. What's the point of her? She doesn't represent anything or have any real drive other than to just hang about. So as a result, often she's just hanging about. It's very noticeable in an episode about Jake and the destruction of innocence.
Wait, what's the connection?
Well, that's what Jake's character is providing. His innocence, and he's the civilian angle. So this episode draws a lot upon that and uses his character very well. What does Dax represent? Not a lot. What does she do? Not a lot.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, it's just noticeable what they can do with Jake. That, like, for example, this episode had really very little to do with him being a writer, or really anything to do with Jake. It was him in a situation where his angle made the episode entertaining and thoughtful. Dax episodes are always about Dax because she doesn't have an angle.
Or Trills in a more general sense.
Yeah,
not specifically her.
Maybe she represents Trills, but nobody cares about Trills. They're silly.
I have a question for you.
Go.
Why doesn't decaffeinated Ractigino already exist?
And
why is it up to Quark to make it?
Okay, well, in Apocalypse Rising, they were drinking the blood wine, and O'Brien giggled that he had the anti-intoxicant. Maybe they have an anti-caffeine pill. But it's not safe to take whilst pregnant and Bajoran.
I like that explanation. Thank you.
I don't think removing caffeine from something would be difficult.
I have no idea. But this is the future, and it should be easier.
They have replicators, so they could just not put the caffeine particles into the thing. Does it have a strong flavor?
Yes, caffeine has a mildly bitter taste.
It seems an awfully simple problem for them to be stumped with, although I guess Quark isn't exactly a science officer. Dax.
Yeah, oh, great. There's another missed opportunity. One thing that happened in this episode that made me laugh. So Bashir begins his meal by placing a napkin on his lap when the rest of his clothes are covered in blood. So that was really funny to me. I would expect him to do that out of habit because he likely always does that before a meal. But it's funny to me that he didn't want to dirty up the bloodstains on his clothes.
It's because he likes to eat the food that falls on his lap. He doesn't want it to get bloody.
Oh, another thing that made me laugh.
Uh-huh.
So Odo forgot that he can't change into things in a moment of trying to chase down a perp. And so he falls to the ground thinking he could change into a bird, a condor or something. I had a lot of fun imagining that.
Yeah, there's a reason why he retold that scene rather than them showing it to you. He just goes, "Stop, thief," and then just flies off the stairs.
What you imagine is way funnier than anything they could have done.
I imagine the Uridians running away and then sort of stopping, looking back, saying, "Are you okay?" And just sort of shuffling off pretty quick.
Do you need some help? Because you should ask someone else. We're out of here.
Oh, poor Odo. He added a little comment about how life is squishy and very easy to lose. Just so you remembered what the episode was about.
One theme they sort of touched on just a tiny bit was when the three nurses, I guess, were making light of death and talking about how they want to go. And then Jake lashes out at them and says,
"It's all so stupid. This whole stupid war is such a waste. In 10 years, nobody's gonna remember what anybody did here."
Jake.
Now, maybe you saved a hopper full of people. Maybe you shot yourself in the foot. No one's gonna remember.
Jake!
and that's a really heavy topic to discuss at that age, thinking about your impact in the world and how it'll all be gone unless you're Shakespeare or something and people talk about you for 400 years.
Oh, Jake is Shakespeare, no doubt.
He's future Shakespeare.
His heavy-handed assessment of the futility of war, it was okay, yeah.
There's more to be explored there. They brushed on the topic a tiny bit.
It's a bit obvious and heavy-handed, but they didn't go overboard with it. So, that was good. Nice one, Jake. You reminded everyone that war is pointless right in front of them whilst they're in a war. Thanks.
Way to go. I can't blame him for thinking he was invincible for so long, because if Cisco were my father, I would feel invincible too.
Yeah, Cisco's mental. He'd take anyone on, and usually win.
Yes, and that would influence you heavily, being around that all the time as you grow up.
Yeah, he even says, "I can handle it, I'm a Cisco." And then later on in the episode, he must have sort of realized, no, just my dad is mental. Okay. I'm just
Only
normal.
my dad is the real Cisco. Meanwhile, I have suffered untold emotional damage and life-scarring events.
That's why he calls his father Cisco.
Wait, does he?
No, but it's believable, isn't it?
I had to think about it, and I wouldn't. I was ready to accept that.
Sometimes he calls him the Cisco. Do you have a little quote to share with us?
It takes courage to look inside yourself, and even more courage to write it for other people to see.
So, it takes courage to tell everyone that you're a coward?
Yes, so he's caught in a catch-22. You can never be a coward if you tell people.
What if you're really brave, but you don't tell anyone because you're scared of what they might say?
Then you're a coward.
So, really, you should just tell people whatever, and
Yes.
you're therefore brave.
Yes, so online bloggers are the real heroes.
As long as you say anything, you are brave. Jake is becoming a writer. He's destined for bravery. Through cowardice?
Yes, it's the only option.
Okay, logical tomfoolery around, it actually does take serious guts to own up to just about anything that you have even a small amount of shame about. And I think Jake's weird cheeky grin at the end of the episode really was out of place. After
Yes.
admitting that.
How strange. As if, I manipulated him, and now my work is complete. I didn't know how to take that grin.
I think he was supposed to be relieved, but he played it like, I don't know, like he was smiling at a baby or something.
I think it was pride, but it was strange.
I think that's the sort of thing where I say Sir Lofton has a few rough edges on his acting. It's not his performance, it's just his face stuff is not as good as Cole Meany, the
No
best
one's
face
is.
actor ever. But that's great. He can ask Colm for some advice. What do I do with my face when I admit I'm a coward? I mean, O'Brien would just show it just like that.
Yeah, one little twitch in his face and you would know. How do I face up my acting?
He has to face up to the fact he's got a little bit of cowardice, which is no shameful thing considering people were getting blown to bits.
Bloody bodies everywhere.
We should go on to the next episode.
Yes, we should.
I hope it's a good one.
I hope so too.
Okay.